Howdy folks, JAMBAREEQI here, and I am so excited because I actually reached 3,000 subscribers recently. How awesome is that? I'm really grateful to everyone that subscribed to my channel, it means so much to me. To mark this milestone, I'm going to review the Fantasia movies. Two collections of Disney animated shorts inspired by classical music, starting with Fantasia. Live-action segments are wrapped around each Fantasia short. They feature host Deems Taylor, the orchestra, and conductor Leopold Stokowski. In premise, this could have been a very mundane element of the film, but it's all spiced up with that distinct Disney magic. Inventive lighting is used to liven up these scenes, by adding vibrant colours behind the musicians' silhouettes and enchanting glows to the instruments when used. The fact that the camera never cuts to the audience makes the live performance feel both mysterious and immersive, as if we're witnessing a fantastical concert specially for us. I will admit that Master of Ceremonies Deems Taylor, who helped arrange the music for the film, is the least interesting aspect of the live-action segments, and not the best of hosts. He's not very lively or charismatic, and I find him to be too formal. I'm not surprised that he was cut from some editions of the film, because he's a bit too serious.
How do you do? My name is Deems Taylor, and it's my very pleasant duty to welcome you here on behalf of Walt Disney, Leopold Stokowski, and all the other artists and musicians whose combined talents went into the creation of this new form of entertainment, Fantasia.
I mean, come on man, you're in a Disney movie! Put in a bit of whimsy! The musicians usually stick to their jobs as performers, but the film does give them some personality. From a moment where they almost knock over some chimes, to a fun little gag where they randomly start jamming while alone. I like that the movie gives them some mischievous energy to keep them entertaining. However, it's conductor Leopold Stokowski who steals the live-action wraparounds. His conducting gestures are powerful and theatrical. He stands above the orchestra, commanding the musicians like a god in the sky. It's amazing seeing a conductor empowered to this level, a towering presence in the film. The first short of Fantasia is a very abstract interpretation of the music. There's no story or characters, just shapes, colours and ethereal imagery. There's something heavenly and dreamlike about this short, as if we're half awake while listening to the music. The visuals we see are both hard to make out, but also somewhat familiar, adding to the drowsy experience. It's an effective warm-up for what's ahead, that even hints and foreshadows images you'll see later on in the film. This short doesn't directly adapt the Nutcracker ballet story, and instead goes through a whimsical series of images associated with nature. However, the essence of the source material is there, because each scene has an element of dance or ballet. I love how each dance is something surprising and different, whether it's the graceful tiptoes of some fairies, the sultry swirling of a fish, or the bouncy joyful steps of some flowers. Although the mushrooms depicting Eastern Asian dancing do make me feel a little uncomfortable because of the racial insensitivity of their designs, but this was a different time. Western society was yet to understand why stereotypes like this were offensive. Despite this, the mushrooms are very cute and comical. Interestingly, their movement was based on Curly of the Three Stooges, and you can really tell. There's also a sense of passing seasons in the short. The fairies that appear seem to resemble spring, autumn and winter, giving the short a progressive arc and distinct identity. What more can I say? The Nutcracker Suite gets the ball rolling for the Fantasia program with plenty of magic, wonder and whimsy. This is quite possibly the most famous short in Fantasia. It's about Mickey Mouse serving as an apprentice to a sorcerer. He's fed up of doing his chores and decides to use his master's magical hat to make a broom do them for him. The appeal of this short mainly lies in Mickey himself, who had a redesign by Fred Moore. Mickey used to be a simple design made up of circles and lines. Moore's redesign helped animators to make Mickey far more expressive, emotional, and fluid. Mickey gets to display an array of vivid emotions and actions, getting across a mischievous and childlike personality. Notice how the robe's sleeves don't fit him. How cute is that? Or the way he looks up at the sorcerer when he's caught. He looks so adorably cheeky. Mickey has often been criticised for being boringly wholesome, but this short counters that complaint in my eyes. In The Sorcerer's Apprentice, Mickey is lazy, silly, naughty, and even shockingly violent. At one point he chops the broom he brought to life like a mad serial killer. Wholesome my arse! The broom's character animation is also excellent. Despite having no face, a rich, readable personality shines through the broom. It's also funny seeing how determined the broom is to follow Mickey's spell. It's as if he's in a deep trance. Watching Mickey stress over the broom's stubbornness is highly comedic. There's a reason why this is the most iconic Fantasia segment. Everything about it is done superbly well. The Rite of Spring is about the creation of Earth and the story of the dinosaurs. It's like Walking with Dinosaurs, minus the narrator. It's a gritty and realistic take on the dinosaurs, shot with the same observational cinematography as a nature documentary. The dinosaurs range in personality and appearance, from the innocently animalistic to the batshit terrifying. Set pieces include a brutal battle between a T-Rex and a Stegosaurus, and while these species didn't actually exist in the same period, it's still startling watching a Disney short depict violence this dramatically and savagely. Then there's the death of the dinosaurs, which I'll admit is difficult to sit through. Nothing is held back and we watch these poor dinos really suffer. However, like I said, the short is also about the creation of Earth. This is made up of images of space, volcanoes, and the evolution. Just like the dinosaur scenes, it's all shot like a documentary. The effects animators get to really show off their talents here, proving that animation of minerals and substances can be just as impressive as expressive cartoon characters. There's a brilliant eye for detail in the volcano lava, and the panning through empty space is both beautiful and haunting. Sure, the evolution sequence may be overfamiliar for modern audiences, considering how many cartoons have done it since, but it's still executed tremendously well. You really feel the sense of danger and determination for survival for these creatures. Stravinsky's music definitely adds an interesting tone to the visuals too. Everything comes off as sinister and dark, making the beginning of time feel overwhelmingly frightening. I think this works considering that it's a time when humans didn't exist, which is scary in a way. I first saw this short during dinosaur season at my school, and my teacher actually pointed out that I was the only one invested in the short, while most other kids just sat there chatting. I'm not surprised little Jambareequi was engaged in this one. Heck, this short actually inspired many kids to grow up to become scientists. It's that mesmerizing and gripping. This short is set on Mount Olympus and centers on a variety of mythical creatures, including unicorns, fauns, and centaurs. It's a candy-coloured, whimsical, and wholesome short, the kind of thing that comes to mind when you think of a traditional Disney short. That sense of comforting familiarity is ideal viewing after sitting through a grim and gritty depiction of dinosaur death. There's something lovely and charming about this one, a wonderful blend of the fantastical and the innocent. The character animation on display is varied in tone and style. You get to see beautiful, graceful unicorns in realistic flight, a joyful party god stumbling around comically, and sultry centaurettes flirting with centaurs. I think Ward Kimball's animation for the party god stands out the most. Kimball manages to make his movement bouncy and fun, but holds enough restraint to not overdo the god's tipsy antics. There's something rhythmic and dance-like to the stumbling that Kimball really aces. Although, the short isn't all gumdrops, rainbows, and smiles. It would be boring if that was just it. Disney throws in the god Zeus as a dangerous conflict. Soon as he arrives, the tone changes and the colours are drained to show how intimidating he is. There's another side to this short too. You notice how the carpet unwraps itself in this scene? Well, originally there was a servant girl called Sunflower in this short. Because her design was reminiscent of a dated racist stereotype and she was taking on the role of a slave, Disney decided to cut her from re-releases of the film. While I do feel uncomfortable seeing a black character portrayed like this, I don't agree with Disney's decision to completely get rid of her in re-releases. Erasing Sunflower implies that Disney is washing history and ignoring the existence of racism in the 1940s. It's important that we acknowledge the way things were back then to help us progress as a society. It's naive and patronizing to assume that audiences would simply turn a cheek to this censorship, when our grandparents saw her in their cut, and you can find images of her in animation history books. Anyway, the Pastoral Symphony, despite its cuts, is a charming and colourful short. It may be too sickly sweet for some people, but the menacing Zeus will make up for that. This short has a series of ballet performances representing hours of the day, using an array of animals. This segment is without a doubt the silliest one in the entire film, but I wouldn't say that makes it bad. A pinch of humour and pantomime adds some refreshing variety to the Fantasia programme. While it's not as artsy or fantastical as the other shorts, it's still a highly impressive comedic effort. The animals chosen for the dance are geniusly picked, each one being the least likely kind of creature to represent something as delicate and graceful as ballet. What helps is that every animal takes the ballet super seriously. It's really funny watching animals not designed for grace perform ballet with the same dignity, majesty and emotion as a professional performer. There's also a fantastic understanding of weight and physique. The animators keep the animals' body frames in mind and use them to their advantage to create comedy gold. Dance of the Hours may be too silly for some people, but I personally think it's a wonderful showcase of the Disney artist's sense of humour. Night on Bald Mountain centers on the awakening of the Chernabog, the god of the night, or as Walt Disney himself called him, Satan himself. As he emerges from his slumber, ghosts, ghouls and demons come to worship him and party. This is quite possibly one of the most blood-curdling things Disney has ever produced. The images in the short are quite adult for a Disney effort. It's less playfully spooky like Skeleton Dance and more genuinely horrifying like something out of a Lovecraftian story. Chernabog is both intimidating in scale, but also childlike in action, as he plays with his minions like they're his little toys, taking great pleasure in their torture. His sharp-toothed smile will send chills down your spine, and the way he merges with the mountain will make you shudder. When a bell tolls, Chernabog returns to sleep and the next song kicks in, Ave Maria. This short is the slowest and quietest one in the film. It perfectly contrasts with Night on Bald Mountain excellently. While Bald Mountain conjured up images of hell and darkness, Ave Maria fights back with a proud religious chant and marching candles, visuals representing light and heaven. It also serves as a nice uplifting bookend to the film, especially considering that it finishes with a hopeful sunset. To conclude, I think that Fantasia is a classic masterpiece and a real revolution in experimental animation filmmaking. Sure, its hosting is awkwardly done, but I still think that it's got so much to offer, and I respect it so much as part of animation history. Now it's time to move on to its sequel, Fantasia 2000. The live-action segments in Fantasia 2000 are certainly different to the first films. Each of the shorts were introduced by celebrity hosts, and while people like Penn and Teller, Bette Midler and James Earl Jones are much more energetic and charismatic than Deems Taylor, having cameos from famous people is quite distracting in this film. There's something obnoxiously Hollywood about drawing attention to famous people in this movie, which I don't like. It also annoys me how Steve Martin can't pronounce Leopold Stokowski's name right. I mean, I can say it, and I have the pronunciation skills of an orangutan with peanut butter stuck in his mouth. To me, the live-action segments of Fantasia 2000 are more reminiscent of a flashy Oscar ceremony than a refined classical music concert. It also bugs me how these segments rely heavily on callbacks to the first movie, just to keep reminding audiences this is a sequel to Fantasia, by showing clips from it, remarking on it, and going as far as having an animated segment just be a restored version of The Sorcerer's Apprentice, which ends up feeling like padding that could have been used for a brand new short. I just feel like this ass-kissing of Fantasia 1 takes away any distinct identity from the sequel, because it seems unconfident about being its own thing. It's using the cultural recognition of its predecessor as a crutch. However, there's little touches in the live-action segments that I did like. After The Sorcerer's Apprentice, Mickey Mouse gets an extended cameo with Donald Duck that's quite funny because they end up slightly frustrating the segment host.
It's me, Mickey. You're on in 30 seconds. Hurry! Okay, Jim. He's on his way. Go to the intro.
I also love that some animators get a moment on screen, most notably the iconic Eric Goldberg, who directs a few shorts for the movie. It's nice for these artists to get a chance in the spotlight. The live-action scenes of Fantasia 2000 are hokey and overdone, but small things make up for the cringy moments. This short uses shapes to tell a story of butterflies being pursued by bats. What I like about this short is how much trust it puts in the audience. It's willing to go for a very abstract art style, but believes the audience is smart enough to read these shapes as specific animals. There's a strong theme of light versus darkness too. The short uses strikingly chosen colours to illustrate this. The amount of shapes on screen are bound to impress audiences too, considering how much work it must have taken to bring them all to life. The only thing I don't like is where the short is placed in the movie. The short itself is great, but it's literally the first thing in the movie, and it's not given an introduction beforehand. I'll admit that I was taken back by this editing decision because it makes the short feel like it comes out of nowhere, and it's easier to forget because it's not formally presented or organically introduced. It's not the short's fault, of course, but it certainly injures its appearance in the feature. In this segment, a family of whales fly into the sky, but the baby whale ends up getting separated. Luckily, it manages to reunite with its parents and ascend into the heavens. This is a very relaxing short. There's something inherently calming about whales. They're majestic in scale, but their slow swimming is somewhat comforting to watch. The short really utilizes the soothing and almost meditative appeal of whales by making their flight seem gentle and tranquilizing. The short also gets visually brighter as it goes along, which not only matches the increased emotion and tempo in the music, but also adds an uplifting build-up to the story. Plus, I love this specific shot. I could study it for hours. It's a powerful image of parent and child separation, made heavily poignant by the glass-like ice separating them both. Pines of Rome is so relaxing. It's like new age music. It's such a chill-out kind of short. Rhapsody in Blue centers on a selection of New York characters and the dreams they have. Its art style is heavily inspired by the work of Al Hirschfeld, and it really shows. That distinct Hirschfeld line style totally translates into bouncy animation, well suited for the jazz music chosen. In terms of the story, there's something highly relatable about seeing unhappy people dreaming of something better, a problem for many people. I also love how one person's unhappy life is another person's dream situation. That's really poignant. The decision to show the characters ice skating as a metaphor for their dreaming is wonderfully clever because there's something beautifully freeing about ice skating. All in all, Rhapsody in Blue is a hip and jazzy homage to one of the finest artists of New York. Based on the fairy tale The Steadfast Tin Soldier by Hans Christian Andersen, this short is about a one-legged tin soldier falling for a ballerina figurine and having to defeat the creepy Jack-in-the-Box lusting after her. Unfortunately, the soldier is knocked out of the window and must travel back home to save the ballerina from Jack's clutches. This is such a lovely and charming short. The romance between the soldier and ballerina is adorably innocent and naive. It's cute enough to make me care about them both and hope that they can be together. The idea of having a disabled romantic hero is very empowering and refreshing too. It'll certainly give a character for disabled kids to look up to. The short also manages to pack in quite the journey for the Tin Soldier. Despite the short running time, you do get the feeling that he's travelling far and wide to get home. There's a real sense of adventure, and his arrival home feels very satisfying. Also, while Pines of Rome seemed to go with computer animation just because it had the option to use modern technology for a Fantasia short, this short utilizes cel shading to add a plastic feel to the figurines, thus making the texturing look effectively believable. This short is a very sweet, cute and fun pantomime-esque fairy tale that I really enjoyed. In this short, a flamingo plays with a yo-yo and annoys his friends with it. That's about it. Yeah, this is without a doubt the weakest entry in the Fantasia series to me. Sure, it's got an attractive tropical art style, and the yo-yo physics are well animated, but I wouldn't say it's impressive or even funny, it's just okay. It doesn't help that it's really quick and it feels like it flies by. There's something unambitious about this one that doesn't fit the Fantasia program. The piece could have worked for a TV bumper or something to go before a feature presentation, but it's not exactly Fantasia worthy. It's not badly made or anything, it just doesn't really stand out or feel memorable. It was based on a story by longtime Disney writer Joe Grant, who had served as a story artist on the original Fantasia, and his idea for this short shows that he may have been running out of steam by this point. It's a forgettable little piece, but colourful enough to keep kids entertained for 2 minutes. This short has Donald Duck and Daisy Duck entering Noah's Ark, and a misunderstanding forces them both to believe that the other has died in the flood. The charm of Donald Duck is his relatability. We all have a temper deep down, and there's something cathartic about watching Donald releasing his own. This short tries to unleash said temper by humiliating and abusing Donald in the Ark, resulting in some high-standard comedy, supported by Donald's irritable personality. Much like the Tin Soldier and Ballerina, Donald and Daisy's chemistry is adorable enough to warrant my concern and interest. I did genuinely want them to realise that the other was alive, and it was relieving to see them find out the truth by the end. However, the decision to use a song most associated with the American graduation ceremony is very distracting. It makes the animals look like they're marching into the Ark to collect their diplomas. Surely another song could have been picked. Oh well, it's still a funny and solid short that's held together by the always entertaining Donald Duck. In this segment, a sprite awakens and helps wildlife grow, but a firebird unleashes its volcanic destruction on the land, thus ruining all the sprite's hard work. This really disheartens and drains the sprite, who seems to have given up. With encouragement from her elk companion though, the sprite gathers the energy to restore the land. Folks, I think I found my favourite Fantasia segment. This is a gorgeous segment, animated with the grace of a gentle butterfly and the fluidity of a flowing river. It's a really beautiful piece of work that kept me entranced. There's so much artistry and heart in every single frame. The sprite has a motherly appeal and a very pretty design, the elk is noble and manages to be expressive while retaining his animalistic features. The firebird feels very reminiscent of the Chernobog from Night on Bald Mountain, an intimidating and frightening presence whose stature is more than overwhelming. The short also has an incredibly accessible message. The volcanic destruction serves as a perfect metaphor for the unfortunate calamities or obstacles that happen in life. The short encourages the wonderful philosophy that even if something gets in your way, you should never give up trying and keep committing to your goals. Our willingness to start over or take advantage of a bad situation is a real test of character. This message can be applied to everyone, and that's what makes the short so powerful. I'd say it's worth checking out Fantasia 2000 just for this short alone. To conclude, Fantasia 2000 is certainly flawed in terms of presentation and identity, but it's still got some interesting shorts to offer. If you can get through the cringy moments, then it's definitely worth sitting through Fantasia 2000. I've been JAMBAREEQI and I hope you enjoyed this 3,000 subscribers special. Feel free to support me on my Patreon, and I am once again very, very grateful to everyone that subscribed and helped me reach this milestone. Cheerio, folks.